Hello, my name is Greg and I'm a gamer. Yeah, true story, I'm a gamer. But before I tell you more about it, let's take a look at the agenda of my speech. I'll give you some details on my experience in gaming. I will try to describe you a pitch from a slightly different angle and will share with you my tips on how to impress the publisher. Then we'll take a look at the key elements of the good deck, and after a few minutes in the elevator, you will be rewarded with something really good. And last but not least, I will tell you in secret how to thrive in these tough COVID times. Okay, about me, I play video games since 80s and discovering first computers from Mr. Sinclair and companies like Atari. In the 90s, with blooming love for the PlayStation console, I became editor-in-chief of the biggest unofficial PlayStation website. I did daily updates by myself for a few years, you can imagine. Around 2001, I started collaboration with PSX Extreme magazine, printed magazine in Poland, and in 2004 officially joined them as an editor to become editor-in-chief almost a decade later. In 2016, I decided to switch sides of the gaming industry and joined the BizDev, business development team of Techland Publishing. This is where my countless contacts and various developers and studios around the globe started. With thousands of pitches and hundreds of meetings through the years, literally. Last year, I joined QubicGames to enrich their portfolio with new titles and be a part of something new and exciting. And this part of my life is about to start very soon. You'll hear about it. Okay, let's go to the meat. Let's focus on today. Today, I'll tell you about pitching in person, pitching at meetings or events, but also how to be efficient at online meetings and when pitching remotely. This is very important, especially now in the pandemic. Having a proper representation of your product and skills of a salesman is also equally important, yet very often undervalued or even ignored. Yes, pitching is basically a sales process. You're selling your vision to the listener, be it publisher or investor, expecting specific results and finalizing the deal. For a start, let's settle on one thing. There is no universal instruction how to prepare a perfect pitch. I can only give you some clues, show some tips and tricks, and point out good but also bad elements. Elements I notice and pay attention to in my daily work. You should treat it as rather as a set of guidelines on how to craft your pitch, uniquely dedicated to your project. It's not a simple recipe for success, because final success depends on many factors on your side, including pitch deck, the whole sales process I mentioned, but also salesman itself, his attitude, knowledge of the product, and ways of communicating it. First thing first, what is a good pitch? It's an essential info on your studio and project, highlighting crucial details about your experience and achievements, solo members or as a team, and the game you're making. As the makers, you may think that everything about your project is equally important and the more info, the better. Wrong. I can't stress enough how important it is to keep your information concise and simple in the pitch document. If you're an experienced developer, I believe you will make a few additional docs anyway, like budget charts, GDD, GDO, or story synopsis. Do not try to stuff parts of them into the pitch. If the publisher wants more details on other aspects of the game or its production process, he will ask for it, trust me. On the other hand, one thing very often omitted from the pitch is the business section and your expectations, financial or other. Don't be shy about them and put them right here. After all, this is the main purpose of the whole pitching. This is your main goal. Before you meet or try to access the publisher, check his profile and area of expertise. Everything is online nowadays, and you can easily access some details about the publisher that will better guide you in preparing the pitch and meeting expectations of the other side. Many publishers have clearly stated guidelines on their websites. What games are they looking for? How the pitch should look? what materials and docs are essential. And last but not least, it's just good to know who you are talking to be able to make a good impression. Speaking of first impression, you have only one chance to make a first impression, so better make sure it's a good one. It's good to know how to instantly attract the attention of the other side. What elements in your pitch can distinguish your product, make it stand out from the crowd, but also what to avoid. Let's talk concept. I've seen fair share of pitches and studios in my life offering nothing more than a concept or idea for a game and looking for funding or deal at this stage. Unless you have a really breakthrough gameplay concept or a really fresh and unique idea or mechanic behind the game, I do not recommend pitching at concept stage. Idea costs nothing, but the production of the game costs a lot. You shouldn't expect the publisher to sign the deal based on an idea alone. As they say, paper accepts everything, but there's a really long way from the idea to execution. Game production is a complex process, and there are many risks involved. Let's talk creativity. You can think that pretty much everything was already invented in gaming, and you'd be pretty much right. But you can also think of games like Dead Cells and its loot management and upgrades, latest God of War and great axe mechanics, or even Bulletstorm and its skillshot system. Turns out there's still place for creativity, even if it means just mixing things up or modifying. No one expects you to deliver new Tetris or Minecraft, but showing slightest signs of creativity, some fresh ideas, or even new takes on unknown solutions is always a good thing. Less is better. It's good to show in the deck that you are perfectly aware of your capabilities as a studio. If there are 5 to 10 team members in the studio, it's not a good idea to have 3 games in development or to show 3 different game ideas to choose from. It's your project and it should be your vision. So the choice is yours here and yours alone. Choose one project and stick to it. Fake it till you make it attitude, it will always be discovered by experienced publisher and it looks really bad. Crowds and niches are some of the main enemies of your project. If you struggle with creativity, do not decrease your chance for success even more by making the game in a highly popular and competitive genre. The same goes for niche genres or themes. You will automatically limit your audience right from the start. A few years back, some studio pitched me 2 different projects year by year. One was based on a comic book only known in their country. The second was based on an animated series, again, only with a domestic audience. On top of that, both games were to be turn-based RPGs. Turned out, it was the favorite genre of the studio founder. Really bad ideas. I also had a meeting with a developer, for example, trying to persuade me that it would be a great idea to make a fighting game like Mortal Kombat, but accessible for everyone. You know, it was all about casual input mechanics, in-game systems, making accessible to everyone. And I had a lecture about it for 30 minutes. Clearly, he was a big fan of fighting games, but that doesn't mean that everyone should be. Speaking of accessibility, another very important word. I know soul-like games are hugely popular now, also roguelikes or battle royale and other icons of modern gaming. If you really know all the details behind the successes of these titles, if you're really sure you can make one of your own and achieve proper quality, go for it. Otherwise, stay away. Do not overcomplicate things for yourself and your audience, be it with too complex mechanics, non-standard controls, or difficulty level cranked to 11. For most people, gaming means fun and pleasure. And let it stay that way. USPs, what, 3 letters? What's going on? Yeah, USPs. Last but not least, this is the hands down the most important aspect of your project. Unique selling points are special, unique features of your product, helping it to stand out from the crowd of competitors. They can be anything you deem atypical and of high quality. Handcrafted visuals, stop-motion animations, captivating story, great voiceovers, but also gameplay features and mechanics. It's up to you to search for USPs in your project and proudly show them in the deck. They have a chance to be appreciated not only by your audience, but also by a publisher and his marketing team, making them useful tools in marketing your game. Okay, keeping in mind selectivity and being concise with your details about the game, let's name the specific crucial ingredients that should appear in a good pitch. Studio. First, 1 or 2 slides should introduce your studio. Do not fret if you have no experience or a fat portfolio. Everyone started out once. Focus on your good sides, key values and strengths. Maybe you have a great artist on board. Maybe you gained help from a great screenwriter for your story. Maybe you are experts in a specific game engine, or your members worked on a big project before joining the team. Speaking of project, that's the key part of the deck, but make it brief. 1 page for every subject is enough. Mention the title, genre, and engine you're working on. What's the story about? You can put a short story synopsis here if relevant, like 5 sentences at max. Of course, put a gameplay and gameplay loop. What the gameplay looks like, and why 5-minute gameplay, 1-hour gameplay. Of course, do not forget USPs I mentioned just a second ago. And do not forget to specify the number of players. Is it you're making a single player game, multiplayer game? It can be valuable info. Very often multiplayer or cooperation modes make the game more attractive for the publisher. Yeah, business, this is it. This is what it's all about. You know your capabilities as a studio, so specify for which platforms you plan to deliver your game. If you want to focus on PC and leave console or mobile ports to the publisher, point it out. Show the production time plan and estimated date of release. Price tag is not a must. You can always discuss the price tag later with the publisher, but it's good to know that range you are aiming for. Clearly state your needs and expectation using specifics, simple numbers and calculations. Leave the Excel sheets and complex tables for other occasions. If interested, the publisher will ask for them anyway. For the deck, basic but specific numbers are enough. State what funding you are looking for, development costs for the platform you mentioned, and specify what the expenses will be. If you also need help with services like QA, localization, or marketing, list it all out. It's important info for a publisher doing his own estimations. If you have an investor, received a grant, or applied for one, don't forget to mention it. It's good, but also optional, to include a list of benchmarks in your genre, potential competitors from the market. This helps to visualize your project better, partially regarding the gameplay, but also its potential audience and market reach. On the other hand, forget about complex competition analysis in the deck. Don't put there your own sales estimates, breaking even numbers, etc. Each publisher will do its own internal analysis anyway, and will do it better with a dedicated analyst or BizDev guy, and including all actual costs and expenses in the genre. And expenses you don't even know that exists. Trust me. And first of all, save your time. Just because other games in the genre sold millions of units doesn't mean you're destined for success too. There's a difference between optimism and arrogance. You can finish the deck like a summary, with a neat summary of all crucial info on 1 page, like genre, number of players, platforms, price tag, estimated launch date, and of course, your expectations. Yeah, elevator. What about the elevator, you ask? It's simple. When thinking of a deck in the form of a presentation, you should also be prepared to describe your game in 2-3 simple sentences. There can be many situations in life when a few minutes is all you have to arouse the interest of your listener, potential publisher, or investor. You don't have a time to give a proper presentation or show a deck. That's when you need elevator pitch. It's a synopsis of your core idea, essence of your vision in the form of a few simple sentences. It's best done by using mashups of pop cultural topics, juxtaposition of other games, stimulating the listener's imagination. You can quickly visualize your project and its potential. Something like brutal stealth gameplay of The Last of Us 2 in the world of Blade Runner, for example, or roguelike gameplay and loot management of Dead Cells in the world and setting of State of Decay. Try to come up with the best elevator pitch for your game and practice it until you have one coherent message. Okay, time for a case study. Let's take a look at the deck I've got from my friends at Black Forest Games, a good example of a nearly perfect pitch. This is it, Black Forest game and pitch for the game that was done a few years ago, back when at my times in Techland. Agenda of the meeting because they visited us in Poland. So it's good to have agenda for the whole meeting. Introducing the team, as I mentioned. Team member history, where are the members from, where they worked before joining the Black Forest team. Key team proficiencies, what are the best sides of the members and the key strengths of the whole company. You know, the three: tech, art, and design. 58 team members. If you have many team members, you can do it this way. If you have just a few, it's even easier. And of course, experience, 20 years of experience in many different genres on all platforms. These are all keywords that will help you introduce your team. Core founders of the Black Forest team, and of course, portfolio. This is a great portfolio. You don't have to, fret that you don't have a much history and much experience. You can work on your first project and of course be very experienced guy and strong in some fields. Current projects, of course, studio with 58 people can work on 4 titles simultaneously, but this is something I do not recommend showing when you're a 5 or 10 people team. And starting the game, just look at that. Mind that the whole pitch is not stuffed with art that is just art. Every art in this pitch is like the background for the very important info that the developer wants to show to the potential publisher. Take a look at great art showing the world of the game, and the same is working as a background for crucial information. Take a look and notice elevator pitch, just down the page, north of the wall, Game of Thrones meets State of Decay. That's a beautiful elevator pitch. Again, beautiful artwork showing the game, potential enemy, and the background for the USPs. Corrupt winter, extreme exploration, decisive dilemmas, and short sentences explaining the USPs. Again, artwork from the world, and the story synopsis. That's it. That's enough. Yeah. Even if in the story-heavy game, you should craft a really good story synopsis to be short and coherent. Setting and identity of the world. Again, as a background, some more art, because yeah, when talking about setting, you want to show a beautiful art and sides of your world, of your game. Some combat scenes, because we are talking now about gameplay. And gameplay pillars: open world, third person survival, 10 to 20 hours of total playtime, very important information. And of course, core gameplay mechanics. Do not forget to list them all. And also, as I mentioned, game loop. how will the gameplay look like? You'll start with exploring the wild to scavenge resources, then maybe you do some battles, you gather some resources, I believe, with an axe, or then you build and craft to make your camp stronger, again, vicious monsters, then again, crafting, gathering resources, and thanks to that, you can reach farther into the wild to access more areas and gaining more people to your team, to your camp, and discovering new means of transportations. And the game loop is closed. Again, exploring the wilds to scavenge resources. This is very clear and very informative. Also, main player motivators. Project history. This is important. What happened, especially when the development takes long, like more than 4 or 5 years, it's good to have a project history. What happened before it? What is the history of the project? What were the steps? So as you can see, project started in 2014. They were here talking with me about 2017 or 18. I don't remember exactly. But as you can see in the project history, the game started as a premium game, then switched to free to play, and then again switched back to premium. At current status, at the bottom, you can see that the game switched to premium game again. This is the business model. This is the very important part of the pitch. As I mentioned, what business model are you looking for with your project? And speaking of business, a business part of the deck. Target audience. Who will buy your game? As you can see, quite good target audience, quite wide. And the great table I mentioned some neat information like platforms, monetization strategy, suggested price tag. What was the investment? What's the remaining cost of the development? These are all the crucial infos for the publisher or the investor. Production timeline, when the production started, and where are we now, and what is to be expected in the future. And of course, ETA, launch ready, estimated time of arrival. This is it. That's the end of the nearly perfect pitch that on like 10 or 12 slides or 15 slides has everything that the publisher would need to make a potential first decision. Okay, let's get back to my presentation. Now is the time for remote pitching and follow-up. Since the pandemic started, online events, video calls, and remote meetings are the most popular form of communication, not only in the gaming industry, of course. Of course, when pitching remotely at a video call, you can and should use the deck prepared with the guidelines I just mentioned. You can also try to reach out to publishers with emails and online forms of game submission. What tools, assets, and materials are essential in digital communication and when pitching remotely? If you're writing a follow-up to some meeting or event, do not forget to remind the context or occasion of your meeting, studio, and project with a short description. Putting an elevator pitch here is not a bad idea to get the attention of the receiver. Of course, including a pitch deck is a must, but providing a link like to Google Slides or to download by WeTransfer or other means is safer than attaching a file. You risk your message will be swallowed by spam filters. If you have any videos or trailer, don't hesitate to show it. Of course, with links for safety, but you can also add GIF for some visual effect. Be prepared that many publishers won't even start dialogue with you without a playable prototype. Yeah, it's sad but true. If you have one, provide a link and short description stating project stage. Is it alpha or prototype or vertical slice? That's also a very important detail. Also, you have to be aware of one thing. Many indie projects die just at the pitch stage. That doesn't mean these ideas were bad. Very often it's the man behind the presentation that fails as a salesman, just as I mentioned. And it's not a bad thing. Not everyone is born with the same interpersonal skills. That's why you should look for a best showman internally. And I mean showman quite literally. Anyone can learn some details about the project and become a face behind it. And it doesn't have to be your marketer or even a biz dev guy. It can be your designer, a writer, or any other team member, as long as they have the crucial skills, are cheerful, friendly, open for the people, and communicative. I remember my good friend at Techland on a daily basis. He was a quiet guy sitting at the desk, buried in papers and agreements. But before the audience, he was able to transform himself into a stage beast, being a great host and showman at the trade shows, hands-ons, and various press events. So he presented our products to the public on pretty much every event. The choice is really up to you. The right man behind the pitch can make all the difference. And that's it. Dearly people, on a closing note, I'd like you to remember one simple truth. Pitching a game is basically asking strangers to invest in your dream. Asking for money for something that basically doesn't exist yet. You should remember that when building a pitch, make sure that each slide and each piece of your presentation is there for a reason and brings you closer to the main goal. Thank you for your patience. Thank you.